Channel 7 Buffalo.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Martin on the ground. Andrews makes a play, goes to second, out there, throw to first. Oh, and what a play. But here comes the runner, Donaldson. He's safe. The ball game is over. The Blue Jays are moving on to the ALCS.
The winning runs at first and Dustin Pedroia. And the guy trying to save Boston's season is Travis Shaw. The payoff pitch. Swung on a high fly ball, shallow right. Chisenhall is there. He makes the catch. Ball game. And the sweep is complete. And this resilient bunch of Cleveland Indians will play for the American League pennant and a date with Toronto on Friday night.
All right.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Whatever you guys want to do is fine with me. I can't predict much with it, but I will try to ride along and do the best I can if you want to do that.
I just figured, yeah, there are things to talk about, but I don't know anything in terms of a big discussion.
Well, I don't know. Mike and our teams are in the American League Championship Series. That's kind of a big deal to us.
Go Jays, go!
Cubs came
Jays,
back
go.
in a pretty remarkable fashion last night in the playoffs. I thought was pretty cool.
Considering, Greg, you and I were texting about how it felt like it was going to be like a thing where they collapsed completely.
I thought last night when they were down 5-3 going into the ninth, I thought this is it. If they lose tonight, they're done. They will not win Game 5 no matter what happens. But I also thought if they come back and win this game, there's no stopping them. And I really believe that. I think last night was the corner they needed to turn. I don't know how you're going to beat them at this point.
You were talking about, Greg, that if the Cubs make it to the World Series, if they can get past either LA or Washington, either the Jays or the Indians would be suddenly cast as like the most hated team in all of sports.
Right, huh?
And that's just weird to me.
The Indians and Blue Jays are going to be the villains in this thing if the Cubs get there, especially if they win. It's the craziest thing, but it's cool because at least with the Giants gone now, the most recent World Series winner out of this bunch is the Jays from '93. So that's kind of nice. We finally got fresh blood all the way around, which is pretty cool, I think. But yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think the Cubs will beat whoever comes out of this Nationals-Dodgers series pretty easy.
I don't know. I've heard that they have trouble with the Dodgers pitching staff. I heard the two teams that worried them were the Dodgers and the Mets.
The Dodgers just aren't. I don't know. I obviously hear and see a lot about the Dodgers over the course of a season out here, and it just they don't do anything for me. They don't feel like the team that will win at all costs, or there's some juggernaut to take down, unlike the Cubs do.
There's no mojo with them or the Nationals either, for that matter. I think the three teams that. The Jays, and God, the Jays, man, you guys have just got the Rangers number. It's as simple as that, which is beautiful.
Jesus Christ. I thought Game 5 of last year was going to be an anomaly, but it turns out that between the ending of Game 3 this year and the ending of that wild card game against Baltimore, wow, this team just really loves their dramatic playoff wins, don't they?
By the way, that ball Encarnacion hit, it just landed in my backyard yesterday from the Baltimore game. Jesus Christ. I'm just still kind of like standing here going, the Indians and the Blue Jays in the American League Championship Series.
I know, it's so weird.
So weird, right?
It's so weird, especially because, and I don't know why this one particular game of all the baseball games I've watched, but for some reason, it was near the end of the season, and we're talking way back. Like, I'm talking maybe 2000, late 90s, but it was like near the end of the season, and I distinctly remember watching a Blue Jays Indians game, and the Blue Jays were completely out of it by that point, as they were back in those days. And the announcers were like, yeah, it's been some years since the Blue Jays have been able to get into the postseason. Maybe one of these years they can turn it around. And for some reason, just like the Blue Jays playing some meaningless game, you know, at the end of summer against the Cleveland Indians just symbolized for all these years to me Blue Jays' futility, and now they're playing the Indians in the ALCS, and this is really cool.
It's going to be fun. I think it'll be really neat. Obviously, I want the Indians to win, but if the Jays win, I'd be cool with that too. I'm going to be very happy with whatever World Series matchup we end up with this season. It should be fun.
Yeah.
I sent you a text the other night cordially inviting you to the American League Championship Series in Cleveland.
Wasn't quite as good as your RSVP invite to the St. Louis Blues annual Why Do We Bother? Austin Matthews has a hat trick, so that's fantastic. Yeah,
the statue is already being molded.
Oh, see, look at that. We mentioned hockey, and Zach picked right up. So I was thinking the season didn't start until tomorrow for some reason.
If you were paying attention to my countdown thing on Facebook.
Well, let's assume that I wasn't.
Yeah, it's Blues, Blackhawks, Kings, Sharks, and then Canada gets a Canadian doubleheader of Leafs, Sens, Oilers, Flames.
Yes.
But anyway, so I guess you guys want to talk a little hockey, so let's do it. I will hang in as best I can.
Let's change things up. Let's start in your Anaheim Ducks Pacific Division.
We don't have to talk about the Ducks. It's not.
Sure we do, because I want to point this out. I forget where I read this, but I saw them rank 8th. Are they going to be that close to a borderline team this year?
Here's the problem.
Randy Carlyle.
They had a bunch of guys that they brought in at the end of last year via trade, and they fit well with the Ducks system, and everything looked great last season. Then, of course, they lose. So then, there's a lot of restricted free agents they had to take care of. They took care of Sammy Vatanen on defense. They got rid of Frederick Anderson. They have a couple problems in that those guys that they brought in via trade, they were free agents, and they didn't re-sign them, and they also didn't sign anybody to replace them. And then their two biggest restricted free agents, Hampus Lindholm and Rickard Rakell, as of 5:54 Pacific time on Wednesday, they are still unsigned.
Okay, thanks. That's all the time we've got for Ducks talk. Let's move along. No, I'm just kidding.
Basically, what the problem is, all the guys that they brought in that they thought they were going to keep these free agents and make them better, they didn't re-sign them. And, of course, as we talked about at length when it happened, but the Ducks decided to bring back Randy fucking Carlyle. I have no idea what the hell this team is going to do. If they're going to be good, if they're going to be bad.
Like I said, I remember where it was. I don't know if it was an NHL.com preview or something I saw on Yahoo Sports, but whoever it was, they weren't very high on the Ducks' chances this year.
They're a team with missing parts, and it's very evident.
The pain of Randy Carlyle is something that unites both of our fan bases, Zach. So there's that.
He won the cup here, and so people hang on to that a little bit.
He won the cup, but did he really win the cup, or was he just the guy standing behind the bench when pieces put in place by other people finally kind of work themselves out?
And I'll just add to that. Ask the fans of teams that were coached by Mike Keenan and now John Tortorella how all that works out.
I've got to say, though, I think the Ducks will ultimately be all right because I'm just looking at their division. Like, LA, I expect to be good. San Jose, probably. And then outside of that, Coyotes, Flames, Oilers, Canucks. I think the Ducks can be better than those teams.
I think when you look at the Western Conference as a whole, when it comes to the playoffs, it's going to be similar to last year. But I think the Ducks are the team that could fall out because of all this. I don't know. The only teams that could really jump up are maybe if things start clicking in Edmonton, if Connor McDavid has a full and dominant season, if Brian Elliott makes a difference in Calgary's net.
Speaking of the Oilers and goaltending, I wanted to just reiterate something Hockey Genius from the CCLC, the Admiral, posted. He mentioned that if Edmonton can cut down on the amount of times they're scored on, they should be all right, which I thought was just genius.
That's fucking brilliant. I mean, it really is. If you sit down and think about it, now let's just take a second here. Now, I'm no hockey expert. I'll be the first to admit that, but I'm going to say that if they don't give up as many goals as the other team does, I'm liking their chances a lot too, to be honest. If they don't give up as many goals, I think they're going to be better too. You know what? I'm even going to go a step further. I think you can apply that to every team in hockey.
With Connor McDavid, you're going to be able to score plenty of goals. It's just a matter of keeping even just a little bit less out of the net.
I think honestly, we're kind of goofing there, but yeah, you've got a good point.
Yeah, I think goal scoring's never been Edmonton's problem because, I mean, goddamn, all the first-round draft picks. They traded two of them. Oh, goddamn it.
Taylor Hall in New Jersey now.
And then Yakupov got traded. Of the Alberta teams, like if you look at this and you basically, and I think Zach's right, that in the West it's going to be 5 of the 8 are going to come from the Central. I think if you look at...
To pick out, I think, too. Chicago, Nashville, St. Louis, Dallas, and then probably Minnesota because Bruce Boudreau just simply doesn't miss the playoffs.
It's not going to be because Minnesota's good. It's just going to be because like Winnipeg and Colorado just aren't quite as good. And so Minnesota will just kind of be like the best of the not very good teams. In the Pacific, if we slot, LA and San Jose in, which they're probably going to make it, then honestly, for that third and final spot, it's either going to be Anaheim or Calgary, I think. I really want to believe that Edmonton's finally going to turn it around, but it's one of those cases. It's kind of like a reverse Bama situation where they have to prove to me that they won't suck before I start buying into them not sucking.
It's boring to pick the same exact teams that made the playoffs last year in the West. Somebody's going to fall out. If there's a team that's going to fall out, it'll probably be the Ducks. The West is kind of in a holding pattern. Maybe Nashville gets better because of Subban, but I think the West is pretty much what it was a year ago.
The thing about Nashville, and I'm not sure how to feel about Nashville because, yeah, they got a great deal on Subban, but it's not like they went from struggling on the blue line to suddenly having a missing piece. I mean, they were always very strong on the blue line. Subban just really emphasizes a previous strength. He doesn't really fix a weakness. Like, at the end of the day, I don't think Nashville is going to be anything but that same, kind of trappy team.
I think every other preview I've seen has Nashville in the Cup final.
Really?
Which is kind of a leap, but
I've also seen a lot of people putting the Lightning in the Cup finals.
The Lightning are legit, though. They were able to retain pretty much everybody, so they would be just as good, even better maybe, if Stamkos could stay healthy for the full year. And they're going to have to trade one of the goalies at some point this year, most people think, because of the expansion draft in the upcoming offseason. And they could stronger potentially if they have to trade away Ben Bishop if they need another scoring forward.
I can confirm from my time in Tampa that Ben Bishop is not exactly beloved by the Lightning faithful. Crybaby tends to be a common term used.
Wow.
And he's definitely the more expensive of the two goalies they have, so I can see them trying to move Bishop. And then again, him being the more expensive one might be why no one takes him. Apparently, they actually had a deal in place to send him to Calgary at the draft, but Calgary picked up Elliott instead on the cheap.
I think in that Atlantic division, Tampa's probably the class. They'll be fighting for the top with Florida, the state of Florida, all of a sudden a hockey hotbed with those two teams. If Carey Price stays healthy for the full season, Montreal, in theory, should be better and probably make the playoffs. Having Carey Price out last year hurt him a lot. Without Carey Price, it exposed a lot of holes of that team. That division, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Detroit misses the playoffs.
The Red Wings missing the playoffs will almost be as good as a Leafs Cup to me. Like, just for that one season that it happens, even if the Leafs miss the playoffs, it'll be like, okay.
I've said it a million times. I'll just say it real quick again. It just amazes me that you guys think of them as this joy-sucking team like the Yankees or something, and I remember them as being this hapless bunch of losers for most of the
Again, when you say that, to me it's like people who claim they've seen Bigfoot. I'm sure you saw something, but the idea is just ludicrous to me.
It's going to be similar to last season where you get 3 teams from the Atlantic, you get 5 from the Metro. You'll probably get Pittsburgh, Washington, the Islanders, the Flyers. Some people are down on the Rangers, but I think they're still good enough to make the playoffs.
I think the Rangers are, and this is going to seem a bit harsh, but I think they're a bit like the Wild in that there's just not enough teams that are better than them for them to miss out.
They're on the downslide for sure, at least talent-wise. Henry List is on the back end, and he's a guy that should probably request a trade to a team that needs a goalie, hint Dallas. I think it's those 5, and then you get Florida, Tampa, Montreal in the Atlantic, and bye-bye Red Wings. The Red Wings, I think they're going to miss it, but not by a whole lot. They're not going to be like last place. I want Columbus to be good, but goddamn, I can't.
Ain't going to happen, man.
Not with sports.
That window closed so quickly.
It is amazing just how quickly John Tortorella can completely sink all your hopes and dreams.
It really is, because if you what was it, in 2014, with the year that they made the playoffs and played Pittsburgh, that really cool 6-game series, they're headed in the right direction, had a lot of good young talent, and now you got to wait it out until whatever has to happen again happens again. It's really kind of depressing.
I'm not going to make any stupid claims about the Maple Leafs making the playoffs, but I think we see some marked improvement from the Leafs. They probably won't be a playoff team unless things go fantastic. But I don't think they make the playoffs, but they start to show definite signs of improvement. That'll be my cautiously optimistic pick for the Leafs.
Things will be a little bit tighter. Like Toronto will be better. Ottawa will be around in the mix for a while, but I don't think any of those teams will make the playoffs. I think it's 5 from the Metro: Pittsburgh, Philly, Rangers, Washington, Islanders. I know we joke about them. We opened with a joke about them. I kind of like St. Louis in Ken Hitchcock's last year behind the bench.
No, I'm not doing it. No,
You're not doing it again.
No.
It just that they'll get there.
Not in October, not in April. It ain't happening this time. No.
They'll play, what the hell, we'll just go 2 for 2 for teams that can't get over the hump but really need to. Washington over St. Louis for the Cup.
I'm going to say Pittsburgh over St. Louis.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zach's Tabs.
Zach's Tabs.
All right.
Take it away.
I've got nothing.
All right, folks, you know the routine. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Go to the website, basicallysportshow.com, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, and the YouTube, and find us on Facebook. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Austin Matthews is the Messiah.